Welcome to my first official raw fish tutorial video. First you have your ingredients: fish fillets, cucumbers, tomatoes, onions, spring onions, lemons, parsley, coconut cream and salt and pepper to taste. What I done was went to the fish market and got the fishmonger to fillet the fish for me, so I've still got the frames and the fish heads for some delicious fish head stew or soup later on. So we start with the cucumbers. As you can see here, I've cut out the seeds portion of the cucumber. I feel like the water in the seeds waters down the raw fish somewhat. So we're cutting the cucumbers down to about half the size of the fish you're going to cut. So the fish are going to be the biggest thing in there. I'm slicing the tomatoes, taking out the seed thing at the top. And this time I'm squeezing out the seeds and the juice from the tomatoes. Not too hard to make the tomatoes all mushy in that, but just enough to get rid of all the water content. Once again, just because it'll water down the raw fish. Slice, sharp knife, small diced tomatoes, half the size of what the fish pieces are gonna be. Whole bunch of them. As you can see, they don't really measure anything out. Chucking them all in, and then there's the onions there, chopped, diced as thin or as small as possible, so that the onion, you get onion in every bite. Spring onions. Some people say, well, you have onions if you got spring onions, but I feel they both have different tastes, so I like to use both. Try to keep them as whole as possible when you slice them, so that you have those nice spring onion ring things. I cut the rest of the spring onion, but I didn't show it here. So I got a whole bunch of parsley, just use a little bit of it. Make sure you remove the parsley from the stalks. And then first is a rough chop, and then a fine chop, dice, whatever you want to call it. And wow, that looks like it was sped up, but it's not. It's just my beautiful hand speed. And there's our fish fillets. I used kahawai this time. Super sharp knife, making sure to drag the knife all the way through to the ends. And now I flip it over so that I have the straight side on my cutting side. And if you see here, a bit of an exercise. I want the knife to go straight through. What you don't want to do is have that chopping motion or slicing motion. Yeah, you don't want to squash your fish under your knife. So if your knife is super sharp, it should glide right through the fish, and then your pieces of fish are still whole and still firm. And so here's a sped up version of my cutting. Just to show the amount of fish that I used on this occasion. So heaps, this is my raw fish for Christmas lunch at Langiola. I have to make sure there's enough for me, else, and a little bit more for whoever else is there, but most of it's for me and else. Jordan fancies himself. And there you have it. So I'll just pull over the bowl. Other thing is, I like to chop all my vegetables and stuff first, so that they're at the bottom. So if you cut the fish first, I feel like everything that goes on top of the fish will squash the fish, and it'll lose some of that texture and become mushy. So I like to cut the fish last, so they're sitting right on top. Squeezing out my lemons to taste, as much or as little as you like. And then I use a whole carton of Kara coconut cream, the best coconut cream. If you look at the salt shaking content there, don't really measure that out, just chuck in as much as I feel is necessary. Got the pepper going in as well. And then give it a bit of a mix up. Other thing is, make sure you use plastic or wooden spoon. You don't want to use a metal spoon, because that'll cut up your fish as you're stirring it. And I like to sort of fold my mixture so that I'm not trying to keep the integrity of the fish structure intact. starting to come together nicely. Still a little bit too bulky, so instead of watering it down, I just add another carton of Kara coconut cream. So I only put half in there, and then I give it a bit of a mix, and then it looks good. And then when I transfer it to my bigger pot to put in the fridge, I like to put it in a pot when I put it in the fridge, because the cool air of the fridge will penetrate the sides of the pot a lot easier. It'll get cooler faster and it'll stay cooler longer in the fridge. But yeah, when I put it into the big pot, then I put in the rest of that coconut cream. And that's about it. Raw fish 101. Always have to have a bit of a taste. What you have to remember is to taste with the hand that wasn't squeezing the lemon, because I got a strong hit of lemon that time around. And the next time I do actually use a spoon to give it a taste. But there you go. Raw fish, Bing style, I guess. Happy eating.